There's a moment, maybe 10 seconds long, that becomes the operating system for the rest of Peter Parker's life. He could have stopped the man. He chose not to. And then, that man killed his uncle. Most stories would treat that as an origin, a tragedy that creates a hero. But if you look closer, really look, what Stan Lee and Steve Ditko actually built was something far darker. They didn't create a hero. They created a man who believes, on a fundamental level, that the world will keep hurting because of him. And no amount of saving people will ever make that feel untrue. Psychologists have a term for what Peter Parker carries: maladaptive guilt. Normal guilt says, I did something wrong. I should make it right. Maladaptive guilt says, everything that goes wrong is my fault, and I can never make it right enough. The difference matters, because one motivates repair, the other motivates compulsion. Peter doesn't put on the mask because he wants to be a hero. He puts on the mask because not putting it on feels like choosing to let someone die. That's not heroism. That's a hostage situation. He is psychologically incapable of rest. Not because Spider-Man is needed, but because Peter Parker cannot tolerate the feeling of being inactive while the world suffers. Those are not the same thing. And Spider-Man's writers, the great ones, have always known this. In the comics, there's a line that almost never gets quoted next to, "With great power comes great responsibility." It's the line that comes before it. His uncle never actually said it. Peter invented it, projected it backward onto a dead man's voice, because he needed the guilt to mean something. He needed to believe this was a calling, not a punishment. Here's what no other superhero franchise does with the consistency that Spider-Man does. It kills the people he loves, specifically, deliberately, repeatedly. Gwen Stacy, George Stacy, Uncle Ben, Harry Osborn, Aunt May in certain timelines. You could write that off as dramatic stakes, but the pattern is too intentional. Every major death in Peter Parker's life is structured around the same wound. He was there, he had the power, and it still wasn't enough. Norman Osborn doesn't just want to kill Spider-Man. He wants to make Peter Parker watch. The great villains in Spider-Man's world, Osborn, Doc Ock, Venom, they don't target the mask. They target the man underneath, the relationships, the ordinary life, because Spider-Man's real vulnerability was never physical. It was always that he had something to lose, and the more he tried to protect it, the more exposed it became. Carl Jung wrote about the persona, the face we show the world, as a psychological necessity, but also a potential prison. We all wear masks. We modulate who we are based on context, relationship, expectation, but most of us have one self underneath. Peter Parker has two, and they're at war. As Spider-Man, he is competent, witty, physical, powerful. He controls the situation. He wins. As Peter Parker, he is perpetually broke, perpetually late, perpetually failing the people closest to him. He is unreliable. He loses. For Jung, this kind of split, where the persona becomes more real than the self, is a marker of identity fragmentation. The mask doesn't protect you. Eventually, you start to disappear behind it. And Peter knows this. That line, whoever delivers it, in whichever adaptation, is the psychological center of the entire mythology. Because the people who love Peter Parker are asking for someone that Spider-Man has been slowly consuming. There's a behavioral pattern in Peter's story that looks like heroism on the surface. But when you trace it, frame by frame, it reads more like compulsion. He can't stop. Not because the city needs him, but because stopping means sitting with himself. Psychologists call this avoidance behavior disguised as purpose. The person who overworks doesn't love work. The person who never sits still isn't full of energy. They're running from something that gets louder when everything goes quiet. For Peter Parker, that thing is the image of a man dying in an alley while he watched. Spider-Man isn't the solution to that image. Spider-Man is what keeps him from having to sit with it. This is why the writers who truly understand Peter Parker, Bendis, Slott, the creators of Into the Spider-Verse, always eventually strip him of the mask. Not to defeat him, to make him face what's underneath. Here's the question. The entire Spider-Man mythology is secretly asking, can someone who is genuinely broken still do good? Not healed, not recovered, not past it, broken, right now, today. Superman answers this question by refusing it. He isn't broken. He is aspirational. Batman answers it through rage. He weaponizes the wound. But Peter Parker, the reason he has outlasted nearly every superhero concept in the culture, answers it differently. He doesn't overcome the guilt. He doesn't resolve the grief. He puts on the mask anyway. And that, psychologically, is not triumphant. It's actually tragic, because it suggests that the thing driving him is not hope or strength or love. It's that he doesn't believe he's allowed to stop. The world's most beloved superhero is, at his core, a young man who decided his pain was collateral damage and spent his entire life trying to make sure no one else had to feel what he felt. That's not a power fantasy. That's a portrait of a wound that never closed. Stan Lee used to say that Peter Parker was the superhero who felt like a real person because he had real problems. But I think the deeper truth is something harder. Peter Parker feels real because his problems never go away. He doesn't get closure. He doesn't get peace. He gets the next call, the next siren, the next person who needs saving before he's finished grieving the last one. And he answers it every time. Not because he believes he can win, but because somewhere in the architecture of who he became, in that alley, at 16, he decided that his pain was less important than someone else's safety. That's the dark psychology of Spider-Man. Not the villain, not the costume. The boy who never gave himself permission to heal. You are now another member of the Tortured Artists Club. We'll see you in the next one.